Hi, my name is Stacy, and welcome to another costuming session. Today we're going to be going over how to make Fiona's hat from the TV series Adventure Time. This is the final product you're going to be able to make, and here's a picture of her from the TV show that she's on. And with some minor changes, we're also going to be able to make Finn's hat from the same series. He's the general main character, but we're mostly going to be focusing on the Fionna hat today. Okay, let's get started. These are some of the materials that you're going to need. First of all, you're going to need a sewing machine. Mine is a Singer Brilliance. I got it from Target. The next thing you're going to need is a marking pencil. I have a yellow one and I have a silver one, but for today's example I'm actually going to be using a Sharpie since you're going to be able to see it better. Next thing you'll need is a small amount of polyfill cotton fabric that's going to go inside the ears. Then I bought 1 yard of fleece. I'm using pink for today's presentation. And then next we have a spool of white thread. We have an empty bobbin, a pack of pins, and then we have 2 sewing shears, fabric shears rather. These you only need a small or a large. I have both just in case. And then we have regular paper scissors. It's important to note that you should not cut paper with fabric shears as it's going to dull the blade. And then optional is a 1x1 square of Velcro. You can use these for the ear flaps that we're going to be making, and you can see they're very, very sturdy. The final material you will need is your pattern. You can obtain this pattern from the link I provided below the video. The first thing you're going to do is to cut your paper pattern with the scissors and put it together. These ears are going to be modified. These are actually the Finn ears, but we're going to modify them for our purposes of making the Fionna hat. And actually I cut and taped the other pieces already, so I have them right here. This is what it looks like once you have all the sides taped together. Once you have your paper pattern cut and taped, you are going to trace it onto the fabric. What I've done first, I have it drawn out already for you. I traced the ear onto the fabric, and what you are going to do to make it look like Fiona's ear, because hers are longer like bunny ears, is the easy way for me to do it was I took the paper pattern of the body part of it and I did the shortest edge and I lined up the tip of the ear to the tip of the body. So you just trace 4 of those and then you're going to cut them out. Right? And then I've done the other pieces. I got those all ready. So these are the 2 tops of the hat, and then I have the 2 body pieces. So that's what they look like once they're traced and cut out. Next we're going to pin the body of the fabric together. So I have a small pack of pins here, and all we're going to be doing is folding this in half and then lining up the edges like this. You want to make sure that they are completely straight, and then take the pins and you stick it through one side, make sure it goes all the way through the fabric, and you're just going to pin it again so it comes back out. And you do that along the edge and adjust as necessary. So about 3 pins should work, and then that is all pinned and ready to go. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to pin the ears. So it's the same as pinning the body of the hat, but we're just going to go all the way around. The only thing you're going to leave open is the bottom flat part right here. You're going to do that for both of them. Alright, now comes the fun part. We're going to sew our fabrics together. I have my machine set on a zigzag stitch with a width of 5 and a length of 2. So I'm going to put this under here right away. And I try to line up the edge with the 5/8 mark on my machine. And I'm going to start by pulling out my first pin and pushing it under just far enough, about 1/4 of an inch, till I can put the needle down and put my foot down. Next I'm going to slowly ease onto the pedal. And don't forget that for every stitch that you start you need to do a back stitch. So back stitch stitch a little bit, and then forward stitch again, and that will secure your stitch work and make sure that you don't have fabric that comes undone. Pull out your pins and slow down as you approach them. You don't want to break your needles. We've got our first side done, and I'm going to do this for the ears now as well. And now once we are finished with sewing all of these pieces together, the 4 ear pieces and then the 2 body pieces, you're going to want to cut around the edges and make sure there's no extra. The next step is we are going to be turning the ears inside out. So what you just have to do is be very patient. So you're just going to take tiny bits of fluff at a time, and you can put it inside. You don't have to stuff it all the way because we're going to be sewing this bottom part here. So you're going to do that for both ears then. I'll just do one for now. The next part is we're going to leave the body of the hat inside out like this, and you can see I've cut off all the extra slack of the fabric. You don't want to go too close to where your stitches are because then they can come undone, but you should have as little slack of fabric as possible. So we're going to stitch the top of the hat, actually pin it, to the body of the hat. You can see there's a nice round circle here. You're going to try to turn it out like this so that you can pin it like this. And you're going to do that, the same thing for the other 2 pieces that you have, the top and the body, and then we're going to get to sewing them now. To begin this stitch, we're leaving the sewing machine on the same settings as before, and you can see where this crease is. This is the back of the hat, so you don't want to start right there. That's actually where we're going to be ending the stitch. So you're going to put the fabric in past the foot a little bit, and I line up the edge of the fabric with the edge of the foot right here. So all I'm going to do is the same thing as before, place my needle down into it and put the foot down and begin sewing. I've gone almost the whole way around now, so I'm just going to show you how to finish up this stitch. Just keep going until you get to the end where it was bunched up like I showed you before. And what you're going to do is slow down, or stop like I did, and then make sure it's folded flat. This will prevent it from bunching against your head in the back. And double check that it's going in flat as you enter it under the foot. And then back stitch over it right away. And now we're done sewing the top of the hat, and do that for the other piece as well. Now that I have everything all sewn, what I do is I lay out the fabric flat as possible, and I line up the flaps that are going to be covering your ears. The next step is, cat's meowing in the background, you fold it over so that the top of the hat lays flat, and we're going to be figuring out where we're placing the ears. And this time I am going to use a marking pencil because if I use a Sharpie it's going to bleed through and it won't look as good. So figuring that this is the side, we're going to want to have the ears facing this way. So find where you want your ears to go, and you can place them on and make sure they're lined up nicely. The way I figure it is I usually try to divide the top of the hat by 5. So you want around a 1-inch space, another 1-inch space, another one, and another one to make the ears spaced out evenly. And then you're going to want to draw a line where you're going to be cutting a hole. Now basically you want the ear to fit snugly in the hole because we're going to be sewing up the hole with the ear in it then, so that they stick up nice on your head. but you don't want it to be too snug or else the ears might get bunched up and won't look quite as good. Now you're ready to cut the holes in the top of the hat. And then we're going to try to see how the ears fit. You're going to stick them underneath because we're going to be turning this inside out after we're done sewing it. So you can see my ears are a little bit bunched up in here, so I want to lengthen them. Just do a little snip until they fit perfectly. So that's a pretty good fit right there, because what we're going to be doing is sewing from here and around. So let me see how the other ear fits. Make sure all your stuffing stays in too. Actually, that one is pretty good also. So now we are going to be ready to sew it. And actually we're not going to pin this, we're going to go straight into sewing, but I'm going to move the camera so you get a good view of how to sew this. Alright, so to begin, I'm going to place the fabric under, and I'm going to stick my needle in just like before, put the foot down, and like I said, I don't have any pins in, so we don't have to worry about that this time. We are going to, actually, our machine reset. Now we're on zigzag. So we'll go through like this. Go slowly or else your needle might break, and you don't want that to happen. Now we're reaching the end. I'm going to back stitch. And actually it's a good idea to back stitch the whole thing. You do that for both ears. Now my ear got a little funky, so I'm going to cut it with my other shears here. That's okay, because the stitch is going all the way through. So that was actually just my back stitch, so it should be fine. And you'll know if you go to test it and you bring it inside out, your ear won't have any holes. You can just see that it's in there nicely. So do that for both ears. And then we're going to come back and sew the whole thing together. Here's one of the trickier parts. Now that we have both pieces completely sewn, one with ears and one without, you're going to take the piece with the ears and you have to put it inside the other piece so that we can sew them together. So you're going to open this one up and make sure that you line up the seams of the back together. You're just going to put it inside. Now it'll get a little jumbled up at the top, but the important thing is to make sure these flaps that go over your ears line up. And line up the back seam as well, and the front. And now we've got a nice big piece that we're going to sew together. You're going to pin it the same way that we have been this whole time, but you're only going to leave about a 2-inch gap at the back where the seam is, so that we're able to turn it inside out when it's done and then stitch over it once we have it right side out. Alright, so now we've got our hat all pinned and ready to go in the machine. So like I said, we're leaving about 1 inch or more space from where the back seam of the hat is, and we're going to begin to sew. Don't forget the back stitch. And then you're just going to continue sewing all the way around, and I'm going to show you how to finish up the stitch then. Alright, so now we're just going to finish up. I've got the whole thing stitched. We're going to do the same thing that we did with the other side when we first started, and we're going to stop about 1 inch or so away from where the seam is and just back stitch a couple times. You really want that end to be secure. Okay, so now we're going to turn it inside out. The thing that I usually start with are these guys, the ear flaps. So you're going to pull it inside out, and then you're going to push your finger through so that it's coming out the hole that we made at the back. Alright, now it is all the way through. It doesn't quite look like a hat, but you're going to take the piece with the ears and you're going to take the bottom piece and stuff it inside. So that now it is a hat. It is almost complete. Okay, so now we're left with a hat that has this opening in the back. You could take a hand needle and loop stitch it, but I'm just going to show you the quick way that I do because it still looks okay when you do it this way. So you're going to fold this under on both sides and then pinch them together so that it looks like the seam is fluid. And we're just going to take it to the machine and we're going to do a stitch over the areas where we had open. You can do a regular stitch or we can do the zigzag. I'm just doing a regular one for now so that it looks a little bit better, a little less noticeable. And then you back up over it. And then maybe forward one more time until you reach the middle. And then you just cut your strands here. Make sure there's no excess string hanging anywhere. And your hat is ready to wear. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you want, you can leave some comments and suggestions in the comment section below. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye!